What's wubba-lubbin' dub-dubs? It's me, MT, and welcome back to the Heavy Spoilers Show. This is a breakdown of the body-snatching therapy session that is the third episode of Rick and Morty Season 7. So sit back, grab a snack, and maybe call your ex-girlfriend Hivemind back because we about to get into it. And the episode starts with the return of Susan Sarandon in the role of Dr. Wong, a character who first appeared in the iconic Pickle Rick episode back in Season 3, Episode 3. Though it is kinda crazy to see how things have progressed between Dr. Wong and a Rick who literally turned himself into a pickle to avoid going to therapy. Because now Rick seems a lot more receptive to therapy and has been going to therapy regularly enough for Dr. Wong to know whether or not Rick is using a hologram or some other scientific tactic to avoid having to go too deep into his feelings or motivations. We get a reference to the popular onion ring snack brand Funyuns after Rick's hologram gets called out and he whips out the bag of Funyuns that he was looking for behind Dr. Wong's couch. And then when Rick leaves the therapy office to talk to Keith David's President Curtis, he's surrounded by soldiers in high-tech military-grade monoculars that very much remind me of the Scouters that Vegeta and the Saiyans used in Dragon Ball Z. The president then yells at Rick and tells him that when he calls Rick directly, that it's an emergency. A line that Rick would yell back to the president later on in the episode after Curtis dodges Rick's call that would have warned him about the presence of unity in the state of Virginia. And right after, we learn that the mess the president needs Rick to clean up has to do with the mythical Loch Ness Monster having gone experimentation very similar to that of the X-Men Wolverine, with the American military having given old Nessie titanium bones at a secret government facility at Lake Erie, much like Logan was experimented on at a secret base at Alkali Lake. And when Rick apologizes to the president's Secret Service guard for calling Scientologists space Mormons, he mentions that he likes the actor Tom Cruise, who is, of course, the Scientology religion's most popular member. President Curtis would take his own jab at those problematic people when he would compare Scientologists to the body-snatching hive mind that his Scientologist bodyguard calls the possessed Virginians. However, I really enjoyed seeing Rick apologize to that bodyguard though, because it really does show that he is taking therapy to heart and that some part of Rick recognizes that the road of Rick Prime revenge that he's been going down this season has been causing him to become a jerk to his family and everybody around him. And that is some serious growth for someone who once installed a freaking incinerator over Dr. Wong's chair just in case she were to ask something too invasive. And that type of growth would of course lead Rick to silently apologize to Summer after he blows up at her in the garage later on in the episode. And after the theme intro plays, we get this season's very first look at some interdimensional cable as Rick and Morty watch the Mr. Stabby talk show, with voice acting legend Tom Kenny of SpongeBob and Adventure Time fame voicing the homicidal host. Mr. Stabby would of course show up again during the post-credit scene of this episode as he talks to an alien parody of Larry King about his stabtacular approach to working and murking his audience. And as the two watch the program, Rick drinks his favorite beer brand, Foamy's Genuine Draft Beer, which is the Rick and Morty universe's take on the Miller brand beer's Genuine Draft collection. And then when Rick heads on over to the White House after being summoned, the president has a district map of Virginia on the screen. And since the president's problem was in the state of Virginia, Rick hilariously assumes that the problem has to do with something Bigfoot related or racism, with one of the president's military personnel immediately outing themselves as another secret racist in the American government, which is painfully accurate to reality. And speaking of Bigfoot, the alien that may or may not be able to draw the future draws Rick being killed by a Bigfoot-like monster in the future, possibly implying a major wounding coming Rick's way sometime later on this season, because I have a feeling that this alien can actually see the future. But anyways, when the president recruits Dr. Wong on his weird Guardians of the Galaxy-ass team of random aliens, he offers her a complimentary gun, which I thought was a funny piece of commentary on how loose the American government is with how easily anyone in the country can acquire a dangerous weapon. They practically give that shit away. And after Dr. Wong convinces Virginia to open up its borders for them, we can see that the president made a picture of Rick and him taking down the scientific abomination of a Loch Ness monster as his phone background, and that they both seemingly somehow managed to take Nessie down with regular ass fishing equipment, which is hilarious and suspicious, because those two black eyes in the Loch Ness monster seem to tell another more brutal tale, but I'm just saying. But anyways, when when Rick arrives on the scene, he immediately identifies the phenomenon in Virginia to be the doing of his former partner, Unity, as voiced by actress Christina Hendricks of Mad Men fame once again, since her first appearance as Unity in Season 2, Episode 3's Autoerotic Assimilation, an episode that ended with Unity leaving Rick after realizing that being with Rick was changing them for the worst and causing them to embrace extremely self-destructive behaviors at the cost of the stability of their hive mind that they built. Like, I really enjoy Unity as a character because although Unity's actions of taking over people's bodies and planets is extremely unethical, Unity herself is actually a really kind and thoughtful being towards the people that they care about. So much so that they went out of their way to make sure that their ex wasn't about to hurt himself by reigniting his unhealthy obsession with finding and eliminating Rick Prime, because that dude almost died last time. Like, the whole reason why the events of this episode even happened is because Rick was unable to accept why Unity left him in the first place, with Rick even admitting that his anger at Unity ghosting him caused him to ghost her phone calls to check in on him and make sure that he was okay. Unity has not really done anything to Rick specifically to make him not trust them, so Unity hearing Rick openly confessed to not trusting them despite all of that deeply hurt Unity, to the point of Unity reciprocating that distrust back to Rick by the end of the episode. But anyways, I love how Rick tricks Unity into revealing that they were still in possession of Dr. Wong's body by purposely calling Dr. Wong a nutritionist instead of a therapist, which leads Unity to immediately take the bait and pretend to be a nutritionist and begin a long rant about nutritionism before immediately getting sprayed by Rick. And shortly after, we learn that President Curtis and Rick have seemingly worked together to place energy domes around every state in the United States, including Virginia, with the dome's central energy unit having been hidden inside of the Virginia-Washington Monument in Richmond. And later, while the president regroups in his Situation Room, there is a table in the shape of a pentagon, possibly implying that they're meeting inside of the Pentagon itself. And then, when Rick and Curtis threaten each other over the president's advances on Dr. Wong, Rick's cyborg body shoots out some Dr. Octopus-style arms equipped with a taser, a boxing glove, a high-tech boomerang, a plasma cannon, some type of poisonous needle thing, an energy sword with a laser coming out of the bottom, Kylo Ren style, and, most hilariously, a presidential recall referendum. Just in case all those other weapons fail, Rick brought the most powerful weapon of all, democracy. And later, when the president is on his way to gas the population of Virginia, the positioning of the cannon was, of course, very much intended to symbolize the president having a big penis, implying that his deep desire to gas everyone for the approval of the nation shows that he's trying to make up for feelings of inferiority in his masculinity. And then later on, when Rick and Dr. Wong are heading to make peace with Unity after the president infects the state of Virginia with his consciousness, Rick tells Dr. Wong to convince Unity that he's worth it, to which Rick's own therapist says that he's not, which is an extremely inappropriate thing for a therapist to say to their own patient. But hey, after all this time dealing with the Smith family, I'm pretty sure Dr. Wong has grown quite tired with all of their shit and is about one Smith family therapy session away from retiring from her profession completely. But after Rick and Dr. Wong manage to convince Unity to initiate a friendly planetary invasion to save the world from an unhinged president, we see their invasion fleet stop by New York City, the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, Missouri, the Hollywood Hills, the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, as well as Las Vegas, Nevada. And in Las Vegas, Luxor Hotel advertisements for the Blue Man Group, as well as famous Vegas comedic magician, the Amazing Jonathan, can be seen while the vomit invasion starts popping off. However, the most important Easter egg of this episode comes in the form of this president-possessed man right here, who is repping the most important number of all time, 69, the number of champions, the number of gods, and the number you should dial for a damn good time. And finally, after Unity is forced to release billions of people from her control all at once, I love how the show depicts the human race as already being part of their own hive mind groups already. Whether it's everyone always being on their phone all the time, or how everyone has been programmed to live their lives in traffic while going to their regularly scheduled 9-to-5 jobs, or just waste their time on the internet reading the same useless garbage. Like, I genuinely love every time Unity comes around Rick and Morty because her presence kind of makes you question whether or not humanity being taken over by a genuinely kind hive mind would be an upgrade for the planet. You know, just like Unity did in their debut episode when they took over an alien planet parody of Earth filled with the most violent and hateful people ever. But all in all, this episode of Rick and Morty was a super interesting look into how Rick's angry nature continues to push the people that care about him away, and how Rick is beginning to recognize that in himself while honestly trying to be a better person. Like, this season seems to be heavily centered around Rick confronting his own inner demons while also trying not to lose himself during his hunt for the evil Rick Prime. And I'm super excited to see how Rick's character continues to progress throughout this season, because it seems like they're setting up some really interesting stuff. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and if you want another great Rick and Morty breakdown, do not forget to check out the YouTube channel Whitney Vision, where my girl Whitney Van Laningham is always breaking down everything animation, and she is the best at it. So go check out Whitney Vision today. But anyways, you can follow me at Mastertainment on Instagram, Twitter, or wherever if you guys want to see me post some weird shit. But most importantly, don't forget to follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube and on Twitter so you can keep up to date with everything that we post at all times. But yeah, thanks again for watching. I love you guys so much. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.